Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And David, on today's Hi-Fi Riff, what are we going to be talking?
Shit.
And on every other episode of Hi-Fi Riff, what have we been talking?
No comment.
This is it, isn't it? So you're absolutely right, we are. Shit with a silent I, isn't it? Because it's actually spelt
Yes.
S-H-I-I-T.
Yes.
Yes, it has a silent I. And here we go, we have the Schiit Rekkr.
Yes, and it certainly...
This riff could go horribly downhill from here, couldn't it?
The challenge is to not to crack up or unintentionally say any double entendres.
Absolutely.
That
yes.
might make us look...
Amateur.
Unprofessional amateur. Heaven forfend. That's not going to happen at all. There we go.
That's probably the dinkiest amplifier that we've ever reviewed on Hi-Fi Riff, isn't it?
Yes.
And we've reviewed a few dinky little things in our time.
Yes.
This is a very small Texan-made amplifier.
Yep. Corpus Christi, Texas.
Corpus Christi, is that right?
As opposed to Shenzhen in China, which is where most small audio is made.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a power amp.
Yes.
And it's actually probably the second least powerful thing we've ever reviewed, apart from your Name Nate 1, Mike.
I think my Name Nate 1 is considerably more powerful than your shit.
Well, it is 2 watts per channel.
Yes, yeah.
So
an astonishing 2 watts per channel.
Yes, into 8 ohms, and a massive 3 watts per channel into 4.
But you can bi-amp them, can't you? Because you can put them into mono mode. If you look at the sockets at the back, which I studied carefully, of course.
That's not like you.
Then you can see that that actually it's got a little mono setting, which is quite cool. So you could have 2 of those, and have an astonishing 4 watts.
Yeah, 2 times 4 watts.
Yes.
So 2 watt mono blocks.
Yeah.
And our mathematical ability tells us that's 4 watts in total into 8 ohms.
But this shit should not be poo-pooed, should it? Because it's actually really good, and it belies its power output, doesn't it? A little bit like my Name Nate. It actually sounds really quite cracking, doesn't it? And much bigger than you'd imagine.
Yes, absolutely. So it measures 127 by 89 by 31 millimeters, which is, as you can see, is quite a lot smaller than Mike's Lin isobarics.
Yes,
I would say.
Just a touch.
So, in fact, it's probably smaller than the crossover in a standard passive isobaric, I would say, by quite a way.
Yes.
So it's described as a desktop speaker amp, and again, interestingly, it's a Class AB design. It doesn't have a fan, and it is very... I think it is quite a special thing, actually.
I do.
I'm rather taken by it.
It's brilliant.
So I really like this shit.
And do you know, it's calling it a desktop amp is really... it's kind of short-selling it, really, isn't it? Because it's so much more than that. It's actually really quite a capable amplifier for driving a small system. One of the conversations we were having earlier is, what its price for a start. It's less than £200, isn't it?
165
pounds for a quality amplifier. Now, what could you run with that? Well, actually, you nailed it, because you said if you had like a Chord Mojo and then the Schiit amp and a couple of bookshelf speakers, take your pick.
Yes.
Then actually, for not a huge amount of money, then you can have an amazingly good sounding hi-fi system, proper hi-fi system as well. So look, full disclosure here, you did exactly that, didn't you? So you bought from eBay a pair of bookshelf speakers for and before we do the reveal, can you just say how much they cost, please?
They cost £31.
£31. Why? What was the extra £1 for? Is that your delivery or something? the handling fees.
Well, quality costs money, Mike.
Yes.
So,
and we're just about to lose all of our reputation here, aren't we? In one fell swoop. Because would you like to tell our lovely Hi-Fi riffraff what speakers you bought?
Okay. So this is
Can I cover up the badge? Because I'm embarrassed. And just to prove you did get a pair.
I did get a pair.
£30.
Yeah.
These are Amstrad speakers.
Yep, these are LS101 Amstrads from eBay.
And it says Lavatory series on the back.
Laboratory series.
Lavatory, it says on mine, to go with your shit.
Well, it was...
And I promised we wouldn't make any jokes like that, didn't I?
But it was basically a shit Amstrad system that we were running.
They normally are. So,
and yes,
these are not like any Amstrad speakers I've ever heard before.
No.
And in fact, I've had to put mine down because it weighs so much. It's
Yes.
like a little sort of a tub of kryptonite there, isn't it? It just weighs a
certainly
ton.
is, yeah.
And they're metal enclosures,
Yeah.
really solid things. And for 30 quid and for 165 for your amp,
Yep,
you know, we've got a great back end of a system, haven't we?
absolutely.
So amazingly so.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this. But I was shocked as to how good this sounded.
Yes.
You know, especially with just a sort of, you know, choose your source component,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do. We even put a high-end source, didn't we? We'd used your chord DAC,
Hugo
your
TT2.
Hugo TT2,
Yep.
and that sounded amazing through these. What were we thinking? What were you thinking?
So, I don't know. So basically, this is a little mini desktop power amp.
Yeah.
And these are little mini desktop loudspeakers.
Yes.
These were made... We won't get into a full review of these today because they deserve their own riff, I think.
Oh, God.
But they were made not by Amstrad. They were sold by Amstrad with an Amstrad badge on.
Yes.
There. But they were made by a Japanese OEM that made a number of high-quality aluminium cased small micro desktop speakers in the late 70s and early 80s, including some realistic Optimus speakers as well, which some of our Hi-Fi Riff viewers know and love and have mentioned in the comments. But we won't get distracted by this. But the point is, this is the kind of thing that this works brilliantly with.
Yes.
And to have two of these, so you're monoblocking, you get 4 watts roughly, and that's easily enough for a desktop system, a near field system. The irony is actually that we, in my own listening room, which is reasonable size, it's certainly middle size, maybe for many by UK standards middle to large size, this thing drove these amazingly well, didn't it?
It really did.
So
yeah.
So the 2 watts per channel that this gives you, I think, is a very honest 2 watts. It's not it's not clipping at 1 watt. In fact, basically at maximum power, it was still going. It wasn't clipping. It was very clean, wasn't it?
It really was. Yeah.
Very detailed.
Yeah.
And
great fun to listen to. Actually.
Really nice to listen to.
Yeah. And really, I was amazed at the sort of hi-fi properties of the shit here with your Amstrads, because great soundstage, good dynamics.
Can you just say the Amstrads, not my Amstrads?
They're certainly not mine. Having said that, they are, as I say, it's the little pocket rockets, aren't they? They're heavy little speakers you've got there. So very cool. Yeah. But I'm loving this, and I don't know if you know this, but I have a shit headphone amplifier as well.
Well, I never thought it was any good, Mike. you got all sorts of rubbish, haven't you?
And it's really good. And it's a valve amp one.
Oh, what?
It's got one valve.
Like a Schiit.
Is that? Do you think that's the correct pronunciation?
So you'd think, obviously, I'm assuming it's German name.
Yes,
but it's made in
Texas. Yeah.
So heaven knows how they pronounce it. But
no. And it's really nicely done. It looks really cool. It's got a lovely little heat sink on the top.
Yeah.
Which it's really nicely put together
heat as well. It gets quite hot.
It does.
Certainly did drive in the old Amstrads.
Yes.
At high volumes, or high volumes for a 2 watt desktop amplifier.
And you made a really good point, because you said there's no sort of, all the signal paths in here are really short.
Yeah.
External power supply, isn't it? So it's actually just a really straightforward, simple design.
Yeah.
And obviously, they've executed it really brilliantly. So hats off to them.
Yes, it's a Class AB fully discrete with 10 amp rated output transistors, current feedback gain stage, linear power supply. I think they've used decent components, and I'm only guessing here, but if they'd used crappy ones, it wouldn't sound as good as it did.
Comes with a linear power supply.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Plug-in one, but
so they're not cheap on their own.
Yeah, well, it's it's kind of a lot for the money. It's small,
It really
but
is.
it's perfectly formed. Very high quality thing. The casing is nice. There's no kind of sharp edges you often get on super budget Chinese stuff. So you're not going to cut your hands on the case, and it's one of those things for me that far exceeded my expectations.
Yes.
So I didn't really think I'd be sort of talking about 2-watt amplifiers. That's not really what I quite imagined. Nor did I think, by the way, that I'd be mentioning Amstrad speakers
Ever.
But that's life for you, and I think it's a lovely little bit of kit.
I do.
It's kind of like a high quality amp that's shrunk in the wash. So instead of it being sort of reasonably loud, but horrible and shrill and aggressive, it's got a very balanced tonality. It's clean. It doesn't sound like it's distorting. It showed no signs of clipping when we were playing it at reasonable volumes in a large-ish room, and it images really well, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does.
Yeah.
You could have really tripped me up, because if we'd done a blind test on the Amstrads and the Schiit here, then I'd never ever have guessed in a million years the Schiit Rekkr. What it was. I'd have said it was a much more expensive system, particularly if you asked me to put a price on it. I'd probably gone 4 or 5 times the price, to be honest. So
we then moved to my kind of reference high-end Sony pre-power, which is about a gazillion times more expensive in real terms. And obviously the Sony was a lot better, but I think it's fair to say the Schiit covered its tracks very well. It doesn't advertise the fact that it's cheap. It doesn't show any kind of nasty behavior that you associate with super budget stuff, kind of consumer audio. So I was quite taken by it, and I could see myself using it, on a little computer system or something.
Absolutely, or in a kitchen. Or,
and the fact that it's mono-blockable means that if I ever bought one, then I'd have to buy 2.
That's the problem, isn't it?
So,
it'd be great to hear that, actually, and see how much difference that makes. See if it's worth the extra £165.
Yeah, well, I can't see how it wouldn't be, really.
No.
You can imagine getting a good sort of decent budget pair of interconnects, and sort of not absolute rubbish, and something like a Mojo or a Hugo, 2 portable. And those be very hard to argue with.
In fact, called Mojo ones, the original Mojos, are actually really inexpensive now, second hand. Now they bought out the Mojo 2, so actually that would be a bit of a bargain basement system, wouldn't it? So, and I love that, because this just gives you access to hi-fi. And products like this give you access to hi-fi. So you have your mobile phone, which most people have got anyway, into your Mojo, into this, hey presto, it's just up and running, isn't it? And do what you will from there. So drive whatever speakers you want, as long as they're small and easy to drive. So,
and because it is small and it doesn't have sort of really long circuit paths and signal paths and so on, and it's all sort of physically compact, it benefits from its lack of complexity in terms of the sound quality, doesn't it?
It really does.
It kind of makes a virtue of necessity in a way. And we were kind of thinking about a car analogy, and it's kind of like a sort of Caterham kind of thing, isn't it?
Sure, so minimalist.
You don't need power steering on a Caterham because it's so light.
Yes.
So the steering's really nice,
Sure.
And it's low power, but then again it's very light, so it doesn't need that power, and so on. So
absolutely,
it makes a virtue of its smallness and its cuteness, and
it is cute.
It's
really cute. Yeah. It's a well polished shit. and on that note,
and on that bombshell, so not a polished turd. Then.
Should we give it a Hi-Fi Riffometer score?
Yes,
keeping the price in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to give it 9. So I've not reviewed any Schiit stuff for ages. I think I tried something 7 years ago, and I think I was quite liked it. But actually, I've been really taken with this.
Yes.
And it does an awful lot for the money. It's a lovely tiny form factor, and it's kind of just gets my kind of geek, my inner geek, really excited. So
yeah, I think you've done a great job. So congratulations to the Corpus Christi guys here. Absolutely fantastic. All made in America.
Yeah.
Together in America. Why can't you, got to give it a 9, haven't you? It's got to be a good solid 9 out of 10, hasn't it? For a 2-watt amplifier.
Yeah.
What does Hi-Fi Riff come to?
Yeah, and twice as powerful as your name, Nate, Mike.
Thank you. As you know, it's not, and I love my Nate. But an interesting comparison.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to put them together.
Anyway, one that you probably not enjoy doing.
No, that's a fair point. No, absolutely. We certainly wouldn't do a blind test on that. So, excellent. And look, on that note, thank you very much indeed for watching this episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I hope you've enjoyed it. Slightly different one this time, and you can see we're back in sunny Wiltshire.
Yep.
For this one, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.